guess I just had a good life all the way through. I got this out of Pilsen, Czechoslovakia. It was in a warehouse, along with a few more.
So what year would you say it's from?
Well, it'd have to be let's see, I got it in the year that the war was over in Europe.
So around 45 or...
45, yeah. May the 8th of 45. So I got it then. You could shoot a tree 8 inches, 8-inch trunk.
Really?
You could shoot that thing at that tree and it'll bust it. If you hit the center of the tree, it'll bust it on both sides.
Wow.
Off of it to where it should come back to here. But it's either 30 or 36 inches, as long as it could be. Of course, it wasn't finished like this. I've did this since I've had it.
So,
this finish on it.
Would this be the kind of rifle that Germans were using during the war?
Oh, this is the rifle that they used all together. It was their main infantry rifle. The only difference, they didn't all have scope. See, I put the scope on it.
Oh, you put it on it.
Yeah, and I sanded it down and finished it here. But it's the original stock was on it. See, it's got this hole here.
Oh, yeah.
It has to be there. That's where you could take this bolt out of it, take the forward pin out of it, and put a new forward pin in it. And that's what that hole's for. But that sure does shoot good. I've killed a few deer with it. Like I told you a while ago, I had 4 brothers, but they were all older than I was, and they're already gone. But growing up, we had a lot of fun, and we was raised on a farm. And we had a regular routine we went through. We got up every morning, had breakfast, and then went out and milked 7 or 8 old cows. And we had a good-sized hog pen. We'd milk them cows. There was one cow that my mother always wanted the milk out of. It was an old Jersey cow, and had a lot of cream. But the rest of that milk, we just tried to pour it in the hog troughs, let them drink it. Then we butchered the hogs. But Dad had a pickup, and he had a little old thing built in the back of it with glass doors on it, and he'd cure that meat out. Then he would take it to Gainesville on the market square and sell that meat out of his pickup. I built this house myself. I always wanted to, somehow or another, a log house. And so I just, after I bought this property, I just decided I was going to build one, and I did.
And what was that process like? I mean, if you tell somebody nowadays that you're going to build a log house, they think you're crazy or something.
Yeah, some of them did. I had lots of visitors. People just heard about it in the little towns around here. They all had to come by and look at it. And there There was a couple built after this one was. After they seen this, there was 2 more families built them. One of them's over east here just a little ways, and one back south. That I guess they had more money than I did. They built bigger ones than this one. This only got about 4,800 square feet, counting upstairs and downstairs both.
And how long did you say it took you to build the house?
I was working at the state school at the time I started it, and I think working in the afternoons, on the weekends, and holidays, stuff like that. It's about 5 years. I'd work on it in the evenings in the summertime, and one time I would get dark too early to keep him busy. But I think about 5 years. In fact, we moved. We was living in a house at the state school at the time we were building it. And the time we got ready to retire, we had it finished. So we just moved from the state school to here. Been here ever since.
Yeah, I mean, it's just amazing to see how it all came together.
It came together good. A lot of hard work in it. I don't have stress I know of. I just do what I want to do, and when I don't do nothing, I just sit down and do nothing. And it's relaxing. And but I don't pressure myself into doing nothing. What I do, that's what I want to do. And I don't worry about nothing that I can get by without it. Of course, some things you have to worry a little bit, but most things I don't.
And just talk a little bit again about your routine. Like, so when people see Mr. Pawless, what does he do first thing in the morning? Like, walk us through your day, your daily routine.
First thing I do is take a shower. That's the first thing I do when I get up is take a shower. Then, of course, I'll take medication, and that's my next project. After the shower, I get dressed, and then I take my medications. And for the last few months, I haven't done it ever since I retired, but for the last 2 or 3 months, I drive over on the 82 to highway to the Trails Inn restaurant, and I eat breakfast, and then I get in the truck, drive to the gym, and go into that. I spend most of my mornings in the gym, and that really gets me started for the day. I'll go in and ride a bicycle or something for maybe 30 or 40 minutes, and then the gym class comes along. It's called Silver Snickers. There'll be about 15 or 20 people in it on average, and we all do it as a exercise as a group. And then after that, well, I come home and have lunch, mostly a sandwich or something, and then I go out maybe late in the evening for a meal and come home, go to bed, watch a ball game sometime, baseball or something. But I don't push myself for nothing. I just ain't gonna do it.
So when you go to the gym, are people surprised when they see you in there, when they say this 96-year-old man's still working out? Would the people give you some kind of comments, or what do they tell you?
Most of the people has been doing it with me for several years. Once in a while, we'll have a new stranger come in and go in, and of course it takes him a few days to realize how old I am, or finds out how. They don't look at me as being 97 years old. If a stranger comes into that class, I'm just another person until he finds out how old I am. And I do the same exercises everybody else does. Same as a 15 years older than the oldest. I just do them all.
So how would you describe yourself?
I think I'm a little bit, maybe ambitious. I don't know. I like to do things. I just love being out and being with people. I think that's a big part of it. I think going to the gym, it's not the exercise that I really get good out of as much as a social life in it. It's a good social life. If you use it, of course you go up there and act a fool and get kicked out pretty quick. But the good people goes up there.
So what about food? Do you cook food yourself, or how does that work with the food?
I used to cook a lot. First couple of 3 years that I was by myself. But now I've got to where I don't. It's too easy to just go over and sit down and eat and get up and leave. I guess the only thing I can figure out, but I used to fix my own breakfast, and I did that for 2 or 3 years, and then I just kind of got away from it, I guess. I don't know. See, my wife's been gone about 17 years, and she was a super person. We got along great. Never did have a separation or nothing like that. And we raised 3 real super kids, no problem with them, and they're all successful. And of course we had 4, but we lost a daughter when she was 58 years old, stomach cancer. Of course we missed her and all that, but it was okay. But my wife then came up with Alzheimer's when she was about 70, and I put her in the rest home after a couple of 3 years of that. And the reason I did that, it wasn't because I didn't want to take care of her, but it got to where she was so bad that I couldn't leave her by herself. And one morning, we were sitting here visiting a while, and she kind of acted like she's dozed off to sleep, and I thought she had, so I think I'm going to go out and sit on the porch a while. So I went out there, and I guess I stayed out there probably 25, 30 minutes, and I come in, and when I did, she was sitting in the chair. She turned around, looked up there, and she says, "Just where have you been all morning?" And it'd only been about 15, 20 minutes probably. But I smelled propane when I come in the room, and after she got through talking, I was thinking, "Do you still smell gas, Eddie?" She says, "No." But anyway, I walked over and opened that door, and I went to the back door and opened that one, and I went to the cook stove, and she had got up and turned her burner on, and it didn't light, and this whole house was full of that propane. Man, that really scared me, and that's when I decided I was going to have to do something different. So I put her in the rest home, and she lived there she was in there 4 years when she finally passed away. But I guess that's the hardest thing I ever did in my life, is when I had to put her up there. It was kind of like cutting your arm off or something. I think a healthy relationship comes mostly from a good communication. Once you start disagreeing, that's a good time to fix it right there. It's just shut down the argument and all that kind of stuff and start agreeing, I guess, with each other. And I think that's what we really had a good relationship. No problems, never did separate, nothing like that. If we got in trouble with each other, say in the morning, it was gone by the evening. We were friends again, no problems. And she graduated when she was 15 years old out of high school. And we got married when she was 17 years old. But it lasted real good, and we really enjoyed each other plumb up till, of course, I had to put her in that rest home. That was really rough. But I couldn't take care of her out here any longer. And I've always kind of regret doing that. But I got thinking about what else could I do. It's like getting them turning the stove on. They don't light. She didn't know it didn't light. And her mind was bad after having that Alzheimer's. It just made a bad situation. We had to deal with it. We did.
So how often would you go and visit her at her?
Every day. I've seen her. She was there 4 years, and I can remember missing 5 days out of them 4 years going to see her. And she was just as glad to see me every day as it was if I'd have been gone a week. And she looked forward to it, and I did too.
Well, that's pretty amazing. So she was, I guess, what you could call your first love.
Yeah. Yeah, she was. In fact, she was my only one, I guess. But she was really a super person.
The younger generation today have everything too easy. Everything comes too easy to them. Do you think that's true?
I agree with it. I don't know whether it's true or not, but I do agree with it. In other words, I can see it. It's pretty plain that they really got a good. Most of these kids now, they got their own car and driving at 16, and going wherever they want to, come home when they want to, get up and leave when they want to, and I don't know this. I guess that's all right. I can't find anything to get on with it, but I think I need to get a job. For they have a routine of getting up and going to work, and instead of going to town driving up and down the streets.
Like as a young child, maybe when you were like 5 to 10 years old, what kind of memories do you have?
Well, when I was 6 years old, I was doing just about everything that my older brothers was doing. I might not have accomplished as much as one of them did, but I picked cotton, I chopped cotton, I used teams and plows, did plowing and all that just kind of stuff, and I'm glad I did. I really am. I learned a lot about farming.
So, and you did all that as a young boy,
Yeah, I was doing everything on the farm by the time I was 10 years old. Riding horses, we did that a lot. That's one way we had of having transportation. So we rode horses to school even. And we went to school country out west of Gainesville. That's the community we lived in. And there was a lot of kids rode horses to school out there. And enough of them that the trustees finally voted and got money together, and they built a long shed on the back of the schoolyard for us to put horses under. And I guess now they put their Cadillacs under BMWs and stuff.
Now it's totally, I can't even imagine that, like riding a horse to school and, wow.
Well, it was fun a lot, but you know, we ran stock all of our lives. That's a farming community where the school was, and we took care of them horses just like if we'd been home. We put them in that shed and had fixed where they give them a snack every day at lunch hour. The horses got a snack too. If we usually take a half-gallon of oats or something, give to our horse.
What are things that you believe that every boy or man should know? Like should be able to do? Like there's some men that don't know how to change a tire on a car, or...
They need to get out by themselves and have a flat. Then they learn how to change it.
What else? What advice would you give to young men growing up to become positive, good men when they get older?
I think the secret that be just be honest with yourself and everybody else. A good communication with the older people would be a good starting point. Find them somebody that they could trust and hang out with them. If they didn't have parents who was interested in them, most people do.
What do you think the future is going to be like 20 years from now? What's your...
There's no telling. I can't really imagine it. What else they can do. It looks to me like we've just about done everything it can be done. I think all our country, I think, won't be such a thing as a dirt road anymore, or gravel road. I think it'll all be paved. You can see that every year out here in the country, even where I live. It's every year one of our gravel roads turns into a paved road, and it's got to where just about all of them are already paved now. Where we used to have gravel and sand beds and stuff for roads. The sand beds turned to gravel, and the gravel roads are turned into blacktop roads, paved roads. And eventually they're going to have them all paved. I had four brothers, and all four of them was already in the service when I turned 18. And you had to be 18 before you could get in the Army. And so I just sat there and suffered till I got 18. And I went up to the courthouse to sign up to go to the Army. And I got up there and they said, well, you can't just come up here and go to the Army. Says we'll give you some papers and you take them home to your parents and they can sign them. Then you bring them back and then you could go with the next bunch of draftees. But you can't go by yourself. You got to go with the draftees, and says, when you go, there's going to be one of those draftees gets to stay here. And that happened. And the one that when I went, the one that got to stay here never did go to Army or to the military. He managed. I think he went to work for the guy on the draft board. He was a rancher out west of Gainesville, and he worked for him till the war was over. Then he quit. And but you know, me and him went to school, to the same school, grade school. And when I came back from the service, and I didn't have a problem with what he'd done. That was up to him, what he did. But I guess he felt guilty about that or something. But if he saw me coming down the street towards him, he would go across the street to go up. And after he got by me, he'd come back over to the side. I thought that's kind of weird. And I guess he was feeling guilty or something, I don't know.
So would you say back then, like during the, before the United States got involved, or after, I guess, the attack on Pearl Harbor, did most men want to join the military?
A lot of them did. Yeah, I'd say a lot of them did. I did, but of course, when they bombed Pearl Harbor, I was too young. I think I was about 15 or 16. But as soon as I got 18, I joined.
Do you remember that moment when you heard about what had happened at Pearl Harbor?
I'd never heard of Pearl Harbor, I don't guess. That was the first thing I was trying to find out is where is Pearl Harbor? And what is it? And then after I found out where it was at and what it was, well, then I could kind of see myself doing something about it. I tried to get in, but I didn't. I was kind of scared of water. I went up and talked to them about going to the Navy, because you get into it at 17. And I went up there and talked to them, but I just couldn't. I just didn't want in the Navy. All my brothers in the Army, and I guess that's one of the things that kept me wanting to get in the Navy. But I didn't join the Navy. I held out for the Army. And I'm glad I did. We used to do this after we got back and got kind of settled into a routine with a job and everything. My unit started having reunions, and I started to go into them, and I really enjoyed going back and seeing the guys I used to be with all the time, and it was fun. But all that's gone away now. There were 771 people in my battalion, and I'm the only one left. So I guess I can have a reunion every day, can't I? Well, it was in the first part of last year. I think it was 4 of us left in, and we got together and had coffee and stuff for one day and hung out. But out of the 4, there's 3 passed away last year. Well, no one of them made it to, I think, January this year before he passed away. He lived in Cloud, Oklahoma. But I used to call him quite often, and he'd call me once in a while. But he was in real bad shape. Every time we talked, he'd always say, "Well, I wish I could die. I just heard all the time." I never have wished I could die, for I know I'm going to do that when the time comes. So there's no use rushing it. But I guess if you was in pain a lot, that would be a good thing to do, is die. But he lived in Cloud, Oklahoma, and that's up above Oklahoma City somewhere. But he was a good old boy, though. Curly, about the only curly-headed man I ever seen. Real curly hair. But he had curly hair.
How old was he?
He was a little younger than I am, but not much. Probably maybe 6 months or something like that. That was the big topic, I guess. Everybody wanted to know what everybody else was doing, and I remember one thing that happened that when we landed on Omaha Beach that morning, where my landing craft hit bottom at, a bomb had it landed in the bombing raid right in front of it, and it blew a big crater on that beach. And when that landing craft hit it, and they let that ramp down, well, we went off that ramp. Instead of going up, we went down. There's a bunch of, but we had a rubber raft in that landing craft that we had to take on the beach. And it had 640 pounds of explosives in it. And when they let the ramp down, of course, water come in there a little bit. And then when the water come in, well, we had a rope around that rubber raft, and we got hold of that rope and pulled that thing out into the water to where we get it on the shore. And when we went down in that hole, I was one of the shorter ones in that bunch, and I went down over my head. Of course, I had 100 and some pounds pack on me. And the second time I went down, on the belt, I slipped out of it. And as I come up, there was a guy still holding that rubber raft. And when my head come up out of the water that second time, he caught a hold to the bottom of my helmet, pulled me up to where I could get a hold of that rope, and that's the way I got out of the water onto the beach. And I seen him we had a reunion at one year in Colorado Springs, and me and my wife went up there one day early, just so we could rest up. And I was sitting in the lobby that morning reading the paper, and I seen this couple come in. And of course, we all growed up after we got back home out of the Army. And I come in, I seen this guy and his wife come in, but I knew he was one of us, but I didn't know which one. And while he was checking in, I went up to the counter where he was at. I says, "Do I know you?" And he looked at me and he says, "Well, hell yes, I'm the one who pulled you out of the channel." And I knew I had the right man. So we became good friends right quick. I think there's probably one or two things that would come under that category. I don't, it may be more than I realize. I mean, I kept up with them. But there's a few things like that kind of stands out. I know in Vosneck, Germany, that was a rough place. It was a little old town on the road that led to the Ruhr River dams, and of course we wanted them dams so the Germans couldn't blow them up and flood everybody below them. And we lost a lot of men taking that little old town. It was right there. I don't remember where it was, the Ardennes Forest or the Hurricane Forest, but it was one, I couldn't tell them apart no way. But a little old town, it really stands out as I got wounded the second time there. And I guess that's one reason I can remember it more so than the other stuff.
And what was the homecoming like when you came back to the United States after your service? What was that like? The reception?
It was good. Yeah, of course I was young and I drank a lot. I'd picked that up while I was in the service. And we didn't, Gainesville was dry. It didn't have beer and whiskey and stuff in it. But you drive across Red River, and they had a lot of beer joints over there. And I guess I spent a lot of time going over there and back. And just sitting at the table, drank beer. And but after I got married, I quit all that stuff. But that's one of the things I remember, is going over there a lot. But most of the people that was over there was veterans that just come back. Of course, we talked about the war and what all we did, stuff, passed time and drank beer.
Do you or did you ever hold any kind of negative grudge towards the country of Germany?
No, I didn't, and I'll tell you why I didn't. The boys over there was doing the same thing we were doing. And they were doing it because they had to do it. And I respected them for it. And some of those German prisoners that we captured could speak English, and I always made it a point to find them so I could talk to them. I came up friends to a lot of people by just talking to them after we captured them. I remember one night, the Air Corps had caught a convoy, artillery convoy. Most of it was horse-drawn, and our airplanes strafed that convoy. And there was timber on one side of the road, and those soldiers in that convoy, they just shut it down and left it and went to the timber to get out of that strafing, and I don't blame them for that. But they stayed in them woods till night, and we come along. In fact, we were chasing that convoy out of Belgium when that happened, when that Air Corps started strafing them. And it's getting very close to sundown when they were doing it. And then we come along, we bivouacked in a clearing right there off the road. And while we were spending the night there, in fact, while we just got through eating chow and fixing to go put our tents up, go to bed. And I got guard duty that night, me and another guy. And we set up a 30 caliber machine gun there on the north side of where we was bivouacked, and this kid he was from New Orleans, Louisiana. He was with me, and we had this 30 caliber machine gun set up there, and it was about 10 or 10:30, and we heard an old hog, heard this hog grunting out there in them woods, walking around. And he says, "You know, that's an old hog, ain't it?" And I says, "Yeah, sounds like one." He sat there about a minute or two, then he says, "You know, I believe I'll just squeeze off a few rounds and see what happens." I said, "No, don't do that." He says, "Well, it won't hurt nothing." He says, "Maybe I'll scare that hog out." About that time, he said, "Just 2 or 3 rounds. You don't squeeze off 2 or 3 rounds on a 30 caliber belt-fed machine gun. When you pull that trigger, it's going to dump about 8 or 10 before you can turn it loose." And that's what happened. He jerked that trigger back on that gun, and that thing just rattled. And of course, I don't know what happened to that hog, but when the gun quit shooting, well, I heard sticks breaking and all this, and I says, "I hear somebody running." And he says, "Yeah, I do too." So, of course, we had to call everybody out then to find out who that was. And we captured 129 prisoners that night on account of shooting that shooting gun. And those 2 or 3 of them could speak English, and I got to visit with them 2 boys, and it was kind of fun. Of course, they were nice. They was glad to get caught so they could get to a better situation, I guess. But they didn't give no trouble. Family's house that we tore down. It was an old house back down here in the country. And this is some of the siding, but this is the side that you nail onto the wall. The real siding is on the other side. It's drop siding is what it is. And this door come off in their bedroom in that house. And this pretty paneling here, this was the sidings off an old chicken house that was out here. I'll see you in about 10 years.